You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Welcome to Toronto Sports Rush, brought to you, of course, by the Bet Rivers Network. My name is Kyle Andrew, and it is Monday, which means I am joined by the legendary man himself, Mr. Pierre McGuire. Pierre, how are you on this holiday weekend? Wherever you are, it's a holiday right now.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and all those great Canadians up there in the Toronto area and everybody across the great country of Canada. Number one. Number two, I miss my hunting trips with my late father on Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. We'd go up to Northern Ontario to a place called the Balsam Lake Fishing and Hunting Club when we go moose hunting. I did that a lot of years when I was a kid growing up. And what I remember the most is getting back on Mondays and my mom making this unbelievable turkey for us. And hopefully we had some moose meat to go along with it.
Well, I can tell you for certain my family is not having moose meat today, but let's stick to Southern Ontario, moving away from Northern Ontario, because this afternoon, one Easton Cowan is making his debut on the top line of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. You know, we've been talking about Easton for a while, and obviously he merits this opportunity. About 10 days ago, I had Craig Berube on a podcast that I do with a partner of mine named Jimmy Murphy, and Craig was amazing. And what really stood out was how much respect as a player he has for Easton Cowan. He really respects the way he carries himself as a professional. I think part of that was being a member of the London Knights, learning from the Hunter brothers in particular, and having success there. He fits perfectly into what Toronto's trying to do right now. They're trying to amalgamate younger players into their situation. I'm really excited for him. I think there'll be a lot of energy in the building. There'll be a lot of energy on that line, and I think Austin Matthews will do his best to make Easton Cowan look really good.
Yeah, you know, there's so much to pour over with this, but one of the main things, and I've mentioned this on this channel and on this show before, in the preseason, both Austin Matthews and Matthew Knies were quite public in their support of the development of Cowan's game. They've seen it come along. He's stronger, he's smarter, he's quicker, all of those things. It almost felt at times like they were campaigning for him. Now, not only is he coming up to the big club today, he's on their line. I expect electricity.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be great for the building, and hopefully they start the game so they announce a starting lineup and the fans start getting into it pretty quick. Yeah. I really admire what the Leafs have done as well, along with the National Hockey League and even the Detroit Red Wings for playing part to this. Changing the start time because of the Toronto Blue Jays and where they are, that's not something that's easy to do.
No.
And so they were able to do it. I think it took the creative genius of somebody like Keith Pelly, obviously the NHL buying into it. And let's not forget Jimmy Devellano and the Ilitch family in Detroit. Really important to remember, you know, they've got a vested interest in Major League Baseball because of their Detroit Tigers ownership. And so I think this was really a good example of people being professional, not being petty. And I like the fact that they're starting the game at 2:00. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that later because it's impossible to do a show in Toronto right now without discussing the Blue Jays, of course, in the American League Championship. But sticking with Easton for a moment here, you know, the rumors started spreading that this was happening early yesterday. He was seen wearing one of the dark top six line jerseys. I believe the top six wears the darks. I'm sure the comments will correct me if I'm wrong. But he was seen wearing a top six line jersey at practice today. The whispers started. Then we saw the different changes being made to the lineup, which we'll go over again. What does it feel like for him right now being in that position? Like, again, let's talk quickly. Here's his numbers for the London Knights last year. And just side note, I think the London Knights is the team we talk about second most on this channel. And there's good reason for that, which you can maybe touch on. But he had 29 goals and 69 points last year for the Memorial Cup champion London Knights in, I believe, 49 games. Talk about what's going through Easton Cowan's head today. An afternoon start of all things, too. Going to be high energy.
Well, first of all, he's been part of the Memorial Cup tournament, which is pretty spectacular, number one. So that's a really good developer in terms of keeping your composure. Number two, you represent Canada at the World Junior, especially in a Canadian marketplace like it was last year. I know they didn't get the result they wanted, but the World Junior is an amazing thing in terms of how it makes players better and more capable of handling big stress moments like this will be. I don't think he'll be intimidated. You know, he's played preseason games. He's played in some huge games in terms of internationally and also nationally with the Memorial Cup. I think the biggest thing is don't be intimidated. And I went through this with Sean McEachran many, many moons ago when he turned pro after the Olympics in Pittsburgh. And, you know, he's playing on a line with Ronnie Francis and Jaromir Jagr. And I just remember just saying to him, don't deviate to those guys. If they get you the puck, they're getting you the puck for a reason. Get to the net with the puck. And I think it'd be the same thing with Easton. If Austin Matthews is moving you the puck as a left shot center iceman, you make sure you get that puck. He's giving it to you for a reason. Get to the net and shoot the thing. You don't have to be overly cute. And I think he'll be fine. I do think he'll be fine. But to me, the biggest thing is just learning how to play with star players at that level. It's not as easy as everybody thinks.
Yeah. Okay. So let's quickly, I'm going to go over and read to you the adjustments made in the lines for today. So we know Matthews and Nyes is skating with Cowan. Michelli has been moved down to the second line with Tavares and William Nylander, and I think that line could be really great too, which means Bobby McMahon has been dropped to the third line aside Robertson and Max Domi, while Dakota Joshua joins Nicholas Raw and Kalle Järnkrok on the fourth line, and that line is going to be hell for the opposite team. Like Detroit, that's a tough fourth line to deal with.
It really is, and Callie's had a really good start to the
Very
year.
good.
You know, and I think obviously Nick Raw in Detroit showed that he's got a little offense to his game. Bobby McMahon's a key. I'm glad you brought him up. He's dropping down from the Tavares line, obviously. They're looking for more balance. Michelli's an amazingly creative player. What's going to be interesting to see the chemistry that he develop, if he does develop it, with Tavares and Nylander, because he can make those guys pretty good. I mean, they're already real good, but his creativity can make them even better. If Bobby could ever produce 20 to 25 goals as a third-line player in Toronto, that's significant stuff. And Bobby just got to get his head going. And I think playing with Domi helps a lot. This is a great opportunity for Nick Robertson as well. He's got to show that he can provide supplemental offense from a depth position. And if he can, maybe all those trade rumors go away. And if he can't, then maybe the trade rumors stay around.
Yeah, I've been harping on this one particular theme on this channel, no matter who I'm talking to here, is that I expected, and it seems like everyone expected, this team to have a higher than average amount of line shuffling early on as they figure out who and what this group actually is for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yep.
This is a full shuffling of all forward lines, third game of the season. I don't think there's much to be read into that right now other than, hey, we're going to do this now. We're going to start figuring things out early because it's, we're 2 games in. How much of a read can we really get on this team right now? We can't, but let's figure things out and see how these different line combinations work at game speed.
See, I think you can, though. Here's how I would look at it, Kyle. If you go back to game 1, the first 2 periods were pedestrian maybe at best.
Yes.
The third period was great. So you see, didn't start on time. Then you finished perfectly. Then you go to Detroit. You start on time. You don't finish particularly well.
Yeah.
So you got an inversion. So now you're saying, okay, I'm taking away all the excuses. We're going to be a 4-line team, not a 2-line team or a 3-line team. We're going to be a 4-line team. We're going to create 4-line balance, which I think the coaches have done. And now you got to go to work and prove that you belong. And that's why I talked about Nick Robertson. This is an amazing dress rehearsal. I think that line can be really effective with Max. Max is off to a good start. Max Domi is playing really well. So if that line gets going, that's a problem for the opposition because you know exactly what Nick Raw and Kalle Järnkrok and what Dakota Joshua are going to bring every single night. So I'm excited for this. I'm excited to see this today. I really am.
Yeah, it's going to be good hockey, and it's like we're in the discovery phase of all of us too, and it's kind of exciting because, this team is, while it's more built for a deep playoff run with those 4 lines you speak of and with that 4-line depth, there's no reason that shouldn't also translate to regular season hockey, right? Like this maybe a few less points than last year and whatnot, but the offensive, the front loads on those top 2 lines, those are scary offensive combinations. There's no reason we shouldn't see the same output that we did last year. Is that right?
100%. I think you just said that so well. I totally agree with everything you just said, Kyle. The truth of the matter is Austin's going to be better this year offensively. He is. He's going to be better. Willie Nylander's not going to drop off from where he was last year. Unless if Tavares gets hurt, and I'm not saying he will, but if he did, that's going to be a bit of an issue. But here's the thing. JT still thinks he got a legitimate chance of being in the Olympics. You know that he's bringing an A game every night because he wants to prove to all those doubters out there, hey, I still got game left, and I want to be in this Olympics. And so there's a lot of stuff that could go really right for Toronto. And I don't know if you agree with me, and I hope the fans do agree. Morgan Rielly's off to a really, really good start. And that was really important for this team. So I think there's a lot that's going right rather than going wrong. But I like the fact they addressed the lines early on this year. I really do. I like the fact they did that.
Sort of a sidebar here, Pierre. I feel as though over the years, Rielly has taken a fair amount of criticism at times, but also an unfair amount. I think too much of it has been dropped on his shoulders at times when things aren't going ideal or are going well for the team or as good as they could be. And I'm not sure that that's ever really been truly fair or that he's been given a fair shake. No one's above criticism, but I would like to see the fan base sort of reset how they feel about him in order to let's start anew this season. Let's see what this guy can do, because if he has his best season, which he's absolutely capable of, we're going to see a different version of him.
I would agree. Everybody's, imperfect.
Yeah.
We all, as much as we all want to be perfect, we all make mistakes every day. Morgan's had some really great moments. He's had some not so great moments. And last year, I think his playoff performance was not good. And I think he'd probably be the first person to tell you that.
He would.
But I think he put the work in this summer. It's pretty apparent. He's an important part of this. I think as we go along, if the power play continues to evolve and get better, then I don't think there'll be as much scrutiny on him. If the power play doesn't get better, I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on Brad Treliving to go out and be aggressive in terms of finding a power play presence to run it from the back end. I just think they will.
Yeah, so I want to take what you just said about the power play and circle into some comments Craig Berube has made after the last game. And I just think they're important to continue a narrative we've had with him the whole time. He had some comments about the power play where he was basically saying, I like what I'm seeing so far, but they have to cycle better and get rid of the puck, shoot the puck quicker, like shots on goal quicker. And that's part of the power play. But another thing he said after the last game, and this I loved, he basically said what happened in the second period Saturday night was not acceptable. He doesn't care what time of the year it is. You correct these mistakes now. And it seems to me like throughout the coaching history, recent coaching history with this team, a coach grabbing things early on and wrestling it to death and grounding that immediately. Done. You're not doing this. We're having a bucket practice if we need to. Do not ever play another second period like that. His greatest strength last year was the Leafs rarely had long stretches of bad play. They'd have a bad game and they'd turn it around quick. And he's grabbing that by the collar early in the season. I love to see it.
Because that's veteran presence of a coach. And that's, again, well said by you, Cal. So here's the ultimate Bowman tip I have for you. He used to tell me all the time, Pierre, it's easy to coach in the NHL when you have good players and your team's winning. It's hard to coach in the NHL where you have those same good players, they're not playing well, and they're in a losing streak. So the key to being a good coach in the NHL, if you have those good players and you're in a losing streak, how do you get them out of it? How do you get them out of it?
Yes.
So part of what helps Craig, he's been with teams that have had terrible losing streaks, especially in St. Louis in 2019 when they won the Cup. They had the worst team in the league January 1st. They had the worst team in the NHL.
Yeah.
So how do you snap them out of it? And so he's got a reference point to go back to. And one of the things I did learn from Bowman as well, which is really important to share with our audience, you have to create the standards early. And you can't deviate from those standards. And if you don't create the standards early, when you try to implement them later, the habits are so bad that guys start to fight and push back against you because you never did anything at the start of the year.
That's right.
So it's really, and so for Craig Berube to do this now, I think is so good. It's so good. And if you watch, not that people want to hear about Montreal, Marty St. Louis has done the very same thing in Montreal.
Absolutely.
He hated their start last year. So he's implementing standards right from the start. And one of the guys that's feeling the wrath of that, Patrick Laine. Mm-hmm. If not for power play time, Patrick Laine's playing like 4 to 8 minutes in a game. That's what he's getting because he's not diligent 5-on-5. So the coach is setting a standard. And I think what Craig Berube's doing is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's not even just the way he's doing it in that. I just feel like that's obviously good coaching advice in any market, but very specifically in an intense media market like Toronto, New York, Boston, Chicago, these types of places, you take the media out of play by ending those streaks of bad play quickly, because you can play well and lose a game and the media will lay off you. You can lose a game in overtime in which you came back from behind, you played well. Yep. By silencing that play quickly, if the one thing we did talk about often last year, the media was not really breathing down this team's neck much throughout the season because they didn't have those extended periods of bad play. And Berube has stepped in front of that in season 1, and he's showing it again right here in season 2, and I absolutely love to see it.
No, I love it. I think it's great. And the other thing that is really important, Lane Lambert left, and Derek Lalonde came in, and he's coming with street cred of Stanley Cups from Tampa and being the head coach of an Original Six team in Detroit. And they grossly underachieved when he was there. So he's also learned what you do and what you don't do. And I think that's helping Berube as well. They've done a lot of things right in Toronto. And again, I know the results haven't been there for the fans in terms of winning the cup, but this team's evolving. It's getting better all the time. And I think Brad's done some really good things in terms of quote unquote changing the DNA. I think it'll bear fruit as we go along here. I really do. I think it's going to bear some positive fruit.
Okay, so speaking of the media market in Toronto, I want to have a little conversation about Willie Nylander right now, because here's a guy that spent his entire career with this team. And I'm going to read you a quote, because he, Simone Benoit, and Max Domi were at a very good charity up here in Canada called Covenant House, dishing out Thanksgiving dinner to those less fortunate just last Thursday, I believe it was. And I'm going to contrast this with Mitch Marner, who parted town. And it's not no negative on Mitch Marner, but I don't think he was ever really comfortable in this market. Nylander says, I'm thankful to play here, to live here. I've done it my whole career. It's all I've ever known, and I'm happy to give back. He loves playing under this intensity. And in this media market, you need a few guys like that actually respond so positively to the pressure of this market. And he's just taking it in his jaw and tearing at it. Like it's so refreshing to see someone like that, a goal scorer that capable of 50, just giving back to the community and really embedding himself with this.
You know what's part of that too, and I'm really glad you brought that up, Kyle. I coached his father, Michael, when he was 19 and 20. And the thing that stood out to me is the Nylander family, as much as people misunderstood Michael because he was kind of aloof, Michael was as intense and as passionate about winning and producing points and helping his teammates look good compared to any other player. He's as high as I could tell you. Like I've had the privilege of working with some pretty good players. But so Willie comes from that. And Willie wants to kind of be like his dad, maybe better. There's an internal competition. So when you grow up in a professional hockey house, you kind of learn what's right and what's wrong. And Michael always gave back. He did. Michael, even though I had him when he was really young, I watched him throughout his career. I always liked him a lot because he wasn't afraid to say what was on his mind, but he also knew the difference between right and wrong. And I really respect that about Michael and his family. And so the other part is Willie's seen his brother, who was a first-round pick, who's never really made it. So he's seen every dynamic. He's seen his father traded all over the world. He's seen his brother get kicked in the teeth a million times. And he's like, you know what? I got it really good, and I don't want that to change, and I want to give back. I really admire the process that Willie's gone through. I really do.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed. He's really, it's just nice to see him as a whole person come into his game. And like, there's no doubt about it. You deposit those things in the karma bank, you become a better on ice player because you're part of the community, become beloved. And when you do have a bad night, guess who lays off you a little bit? The community you serve and help and all those things. It's just wonderful to see. So I want to get some thoughts from you, just some quick notes about the big offseason acquisitions. Of course, I mean Nick Waugh, Matthias Michelli, and Dakota Joshua. It's early, but what are your thoughts on those three acquisitions right now?
Nick's doing exactly what I thought he'd do. Big body presence, produce depth offense, win key faceoffs, challenge people physically. Dakota, I think, will evolve and get better and better, more comfortable. Michelli's creativity, if you haven't seen it, then you're not watching the games. I mean, he's a brilliant player. He'll just continue to evolve. As long as he stays healthy, he'll continue evolving it better. I think that matchup, and I love that you brought it up at the beginning, with Nylander and with Tavares, I think that's a really good match.
It might be better.
It might be better. Honestly, it might be better.
Yeah. Dakota Joshua, any thoughts on him?
Yeah, I just think he's going to evolve as we go along.
Yeah, it's a little bit different process, right?
So where he'll be appreciated is intense rivalry games where teams have major ammunition that he's got to push back on. So one of those teams is Florida. Another one of those teams is Tampa. Another one of those teams might be Boston. Montreal doesn't have that kind of artillery, really. Detroit doesn't have that kind of artillery. So I would expect that some of the other division opponents that, are pretty knowledgeable, Florida and Tampa and Boston, I think you'll have to bring a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised when you play Ottawa that a guy like Dakota Joshua is a little more involved.
Absolutely. That's exactly the matchup that he was brought here for, I feel. Yeah. Okay, so quickly around the NHL, Pierre, it's early on, of course, but are you seeing who's surprising you, who's disappointing you so far around the league?
Boston's 3-0. Unbelievable that Boston's 3-0. Now their schedule's been, to be fair, their schedule's been soft, but good for them they had to have a good start, and they have had a good start. The New York Rangers on home ice, in 2 games on home ice, they've been shut out twice. Unacceptable. They got shut out 1-0 by Washington on Sunday night. They lost to the Penguins in a shutout opening night. Unacceptable. I know they went on the road and blasted Pittsburgh and blasted Buffalo, but that Pittsburgh game, halfway through the game, was 1-1. I watched it. And so I'm seeing some good stuff from New York and not so good stuff from New York. I think out west, Vegas is going to be an interesting team to watch. They're kind of getting their footing. They'll continue to evolve and get better. Seattle's off to an amazing start. But for Seattle now, they go on a 6-game road trip. That is hellacious. So we're going to see and they play good teams. It'll be interesting to see where they are at the end of that. And I'm worried about Tampa. I'm telling you right now. I know Tampa's a good team. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm watching them play, and there's a disconnect. Like I watched New Jersey play against them the other day, Kyle. New Jersey just ran their defense over. They made Vasilevsky look just okay. And I don't know if they're worn out. I don't know if they've lost too many players. I don't know if they lost some of their internal leadership, but there could be some issues in Tampa. And if you were to ask me, Pierre, we're on the Bet Rivers Network, make one bet about one team that's going to be proactive early on. I think it's going to be Tampa.
Mainly because they have to be. But Pierre, I hate to inform you, you actually just broke a cardinal rule here in Toronto right now. You spoke kindly of the city of Seattle, and we're not doing that right now for very obvious reasons. So we're going to have to let you go. This is your final show. Or we'll bring you back in a couple weeks, depending what happens. But that actually transitions me into the last thing I want to touch on with you today. Yep. Obviously, the electricity in the air in the city of Toronto and the sports teams right now is just off the charts. Look what happened today. The Toronto Maple Leafs and the Detroit Red Wings moved their game up to not conflict with the 5:08 start time of Game 2 of the American League Championship Series. And then they invited their fans to stay in their seats and watch the game on the Jumbotron of the arena. And I'm still looking into whether or not they will restart the alcohol sales after that, because it could be chaos on that street between the two afterwards if the Jays have good. But how can a team have good results today? Sorry. How can a team like the Maple Leafs feed off of this energy? Like, do you have examples there where you saw this, where a team in one sport has the entire attention and the buzz? Like, it's really the whole country, but just sticking in Toronto. Yeah. How can the Leafs feed off of that?
I've seen it happen in Boston with the Bruins and the Red Sox and the Celtics and even the Patriots, especially in the fall part of the season. I've seen it happen in New York with the Rangers and the Giants. I have. In Pittsburgh, I know when I was coaching there, it definitely happened with the Steelers and the Penguins. We fed off the energy that the Steelers are really good. Chuck Noll was still coaching there. You could tell that they were a really professional organization. So I've seen it in other cities where it's happened. I think the biggest thing is everybody's pumped to live in Toronto. You walk down the street, rather than just put your head down and keep walking, everybody's standing up, they're square, and they feel good about themselves. They're a little quicker, they're a little more proud, their chest looks stronger. Everything's kind of cool. So I think the Leafs, the biggest part is don't lay an egg. Show that you're prepared to compete as hard as what the Blue Jays are. And if you are, then you're probably going to have success.
I just think, imagine it was the Tigers that came through and they were playing at the same time today. But this is a formidable series for the Blue Jays. And if both of these teams can somehow pull out a win today, that is going to be rocking downtown core on a Thanksgiving Monday. Pierre,
I totally agree. I couldn't agree more.
Pierre, thanks so much for joining us on this holiday Monday. We appreciate your time always. You've watched another edition of McGuire Monday here on Toronto Sports Rush.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.